Hello everyone again in our seminar series, and today we have a Professor Carlos Formoso from University of Rio Grande, Brazil. He's a professor in construction and construction management, and he have a wider and a lot of research focusing in modular construction and mass constructions. So I'm gonna pass now the mic for Professor Carlos Formoso to start his presentations.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mohan, for the introduction and also for the invitation. I'm going to make a presentation on modular construction. I'm from Brazil, from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. NORI is the lab where I work. And for that reason, I'm going to speak a little bit about the Brazilian context. This is where we've been studying the implementation of modular construction. So my presentation is going to start by some definitions about modular construction, definitions and limitations. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a concept that is strongly related to mass customization, to modular construction, which is mass customization. And then I'm going to talk about some core concepts and advanced practices that are very important for the implementation of both modular construction and mass customization. And my conclusions will be about challenges and opportunities for modular construction. It's based on my Brazilian experience, but of course it is also applicable to other countries. So what is modular construction? So everybody thinks about volumetric modules that are fully produced in a manufacturing plant, right? So a general definition of modular construction, it is a construction process in which a large share of activities are executed off-site in a controlled environment with a high degree of mechanization. And not only volumetric modules are considered as products of modular construction, but also panels that can be assembled on site. And it's also stated that modular construction usually has a high degree of completeness before site assembly. And so one of the great advantages of the modular construction is that the integration of components is undertaken in an industrial environment. And this is something critical when you do on-site construction. The difficulties, the problems in terms of coordination, in terms of quality that you have when you need to integrate different components in a site, in a construction site where you don't have much control about processes. And of course, we can state that if we're talking modular construction, the modularity concept should be used. Later on, I'm going to talk a little bit about this concept, which is very important for modular construction and needs to be adapted to be fully used in the construction industry. Some limitations of modular construction. I have visited a number of modular construction companies in Brazil, also in the UK. And what you see usually is that there is a variation in the degree of mechanization and automation. Some companies are really use a high degree of automation, mechanization, produce highly repetitive standardized modules, but some other companies in the other extreme, they have a relatively low degree of mechanization. And I would say that even some successful modular construction companies, they produce modules in a manufacturing plant, but without a high level of automation. Sometimes we say that some modular construction manufacturing plants looks like a construction site with a roof, because many tasks are made by hand, not by machines. Another interesting limitation that must be considered is that the degree of completeness of modules produced in manufacturing plants also vary substantially. Even in developed countries, you see that only in some companies only a few subsystems are assembled off-site. So some companies send parts to the construction site, and part of the work is assembled on site in a construction site. For instance, in Canada, I visited a manufacturing plant in which the concern was to have a protected environment in a construction site. So if you have walls in the roof, you can assemble the other components on site, sometimes using subcontractors, because you have a protected environment in a construction site, especially because of the weather that they have there. So this varies a lot. It depends very much on distances. Countries like Brazil, USA, Canada, you have to transport components in long distances. Sometimes it's worthwhile to send them in kits and then do most of the assembly process on site. Another important thing is that many modular construction companies, they actually deliver projects, full projects, not only modules, which means that they need to coordinate the modular part of the project with the non-modular part of the project, including other prefabricated building systems or even traditional construction site activities. So those companies, they need to be very good at integrating different systems. Also, what we see in some in modular construction companies is that the concept of modularity has not been fully explored, being often fully adapted to construction. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. So these are some examples. In Brazil, we use a lot wood frame, light steel frame. These are two completely different companies. Tec Verde is a wood frame company. They produce most activities in a manufacturing plant with a high degree of automation, right? It is a very successful company. It's one of the leading companies in Brazil. The other company, Espaço Smart, they don't send modules to the construction site. They send kits for light steel frame, for roof, windows, and so on. And these kits are assembled in the construction site by qualified subcontractors. It's a kind of decentralized production system. They are also very successful. And I would say they also offer modular construction, although the percentage of activities carried out in a manufacturing plant is relatively small. They operate in the whole country and even in other Latin American countries. This is another company. They produce a wide range of products, especially prisons and schools. I wish they could produce more schools than prisons, but prisons is one of the main businesses for that company. This type of projects, they usually have a very short lead time. So this is one of the main advantages of modular constructions around the world, is delivering a project in a very short lead time. So mass customization, it's something that has existed for a long time. It's when a company offers products that fulfill specific requirements, specific customer requirements, through flexible processes and structures within costs and delivery time that are similar to mass production, which means you're able to provide some flexibility. You charge something for that, but not much more than mass-produced products. These companies that adopt mass customization, there are many in the manufacturing sector. What they do, they offer a limited customization based on a deep knowledge about customer requirements. And it's based on the assumption that customers are prepared to pay a premium price for customization, right? So it's not personalizing a product, doing anything the client wants, but to have a limited range of changes that you can make in the product. This is very important for housing. You can see on the left a very large housing estate, social housing estate built in Brazil, which has a very bad performance in terms of value generation, because this standard house probably is not suitable for a large percentage of customers. You have to consider that nowadays we have a high diversity of customer profiles in housing. So people have different requirements. There is a diversity of requirements. So mass customization allows you to improve value generation by offering the opportunity of some changes. There is a discussion on how to achieve mass customization, and there are some simplified views about that. For instance, some people think, oh, you just create a menu so people can choose different components, different modules. Another alternative is you can print a building, right? This is you can print some components, but it's very difficult to do that for the whole building. Or you can use your creativity and do a very good flexible design. So these views are simplifications on how you deliver mass customization. Mass customization is something much more complicated. You need to combine different types of knowledge to achieve mass customization. You must understand customer requirements. This expression is used, customer integration, which means creating mechanisms to consider customer requirements in the decision-making process. You need to design products that offer the possibilities for customization. And also you need to change the way you do production, logistics, and supply chain management. So there is a huge body of knowledge that you need for mass customization. I'm talking about mass customization because this is a very important concept for modular construction, right? And it is the implementation of mass customization involves a large number of concept methods. You can see some of them. Some of these concepts are related to the lean production philosophy, like pool production, visual management, small batch size. Some of them are related to the marketing field. So how to model requirements, how to establish an interface for the customers. And some of them are related to product development, product architecture, product modularity, product service systems. So you need to combine those ideas in order to have an efficient and an effective modular construction system that offers some degree of customization. These are some examples of companies that offer mass customization. These are some Brazilian companies that use traditional technologies. So this is also used for traditional technologies. So you can change the way you plan your projects. You can use visual management to communicate design changes. You can involve suppliers by providing customized kits. There are a number of alternatives that you can use. When you talk about modular construction, the main reference is a group of 5 Japanese companies which are able to produce highly industrialized modular houses. And at the same time, they are very good at capturing customer requirements. So these companies are an important reference for modular construction in many other countries. Of course, there are other countries that have also are also advanced in modular construction, but Japan definitely is a very important reference because they combine highly industrialized systems with based on a deep knowledge about customer requirements. So based on that, I'm going to talk about a number of concepts and practices that have been used in modular construction, classified in those 3 categories: customer integration, operations management, and product design. In terms of customer integration, these are some pictures of companies that offer customer a kind of experience. So they go to a place where they can choose the different alternatives. They can test them, they can touch them, and this has been very important. This is when they make a decision about the final design of the house. Some companies also offer a kind of choice menu that can be used and in which they can quickly arrive to a solution. But this direct contact with the customer is very important. So several companies in Japan do that. Also in Brazil, companies are starting to use that type of mechanism for involving customers in decision making. So helping the customer to make a good decision. This is very important. There are also some techniques for assessing customization options. This is used by companies before they develop their products. So they want to know, for instance, how much the customer is willing to pay for a certain change in the product, right? So there is a kind of balance that you need to do. You need to offer a number of you need to offer those product changes that are really something that the customer wants, right? So there are a number of techniques like stated preference, choice menu, which you can use to do that. Regarding product design, a very important change is project modularity. So project modularity is when you divide your product in subsystems which have different functions, and these subsystems are connected by standard interfaces. You can see many modular products in the market. Desktop computers are modular products. You can easily change components. Cars can be also considered as modular products. You can replace parts, at least some of them. But that's the idea. Each subsystem has a different function, and there are standard interfaces that allows you to have some kind of flexibility for changing components. If a product has a high degree of modularity, it's called a module architecture product, right? If a product doesn't have has a low degree of modularity, we call that an integral product. I'm going to show you a very simple example, which is related to another concept, which is product platform, right? And also another concept is product family. So you can see a gray component, right, on the left of the slide, and you can see some other modules, right? Roofs, different types of roofs, different types of modules with different colors, right? So you can have 3 different products using the same module, the platform, right? So platform is a part of the a platform is a set of modules that are used by several different products that belong to the same family. So that's the basic idea of product platform. It's a way of using the concept of modular construction. For instance, some companies offer design catalogs, right? So many modular construction companies do that. So you can open the catalog, you have different options, you have dozens or hundreds of options. It seems to be good to have many options, but this is complicated for the company because these products are very different. And if each customer chooses a different design, there will be a low degree of repetitiveness. And also there is something called burden of choice. If a customer, if a huge home design catalog is offered to a customer, it's going to take a long time for the customer to choose the best design. And sometimes this customer would feel frustrated because he or she is not sure if the best choice was made. So what's the idea? Let's offer modules, right? For instance, these are 4 designs from the same modular construction company. This was the work of one of our PhD students, Manuela Conti. And what she did, she identified common components from a group of, from analyzing a group of houses. So this could become a platform, right? So instead of offering dozens of house designs, you could offer, well, you have a number of platforms, 2 or 3 platforms, and you can add some components. So this is something that is very important for modular housing. It's not easy to implement, especially because we could analyze project modularity at different levels. For instance, you can have modularity when you produce a kit of components, when you produce a 3D module without or with finishing, or even when you talk about site assembly module. So you can have modularity at different levels, which means that you need to map how modularity is going to offer. So this is a kind of research topic for modular construction. Sometimes you cannot have modular products, but you can still have some kind of repetition if you use the concept of process modularity. Process modularity is very similar to the concept of to the principle of reducing batch size, which is a lean production principle. This is when you divide a process into batches that have the same degree, some degree of repetition, although the modules are not identical. Each batch has a similar set of tasks and work density. So this is something you can use for industrial buildings, for instance, commercial buildings. In a way, it's a kind of a different type of modularity that can bring similar benefits to product modularity. This is one example. This is a parking building in Porto Alegre Airport. Porto Alegre is the city where I live. And so we applied the concept of process modularity. We divided this building in 17 modules, and then produced each module. We produce this building as a sequence of modules. Although they were not repetitive, we established a pace, a rhythm for the production of this building, which was prefabricated. Another option that must be mentioned, this is another movement that exists in Brazil, is especially in the residential building market, some companies are trying to do a kind of gradual implementation of off-site modular construction. Instead of bringing volumetric modules from a manufacturing plant, these companies, they are trying to bring some subsystems that are modular, like toilets, facades. Some companies are also using kits of electrical wiring, pipes, and so on. So this is another movement. This is a movement led by real estate companies. The other movement, the modular construction movement, is mostly led by companies that have not previously worked in on-site construction. So these are companies that come from different sectors. And finally, there are several concept, method, techniques that come from the lean production philosophy that are very useful for modular construction. And one of the planning techniques that we're using for this type of project is location-based planning and control, something that is an idea that is relatively old. It's from the 1940s. It used to be called location-based planning, but it has evolved in recent years in the lean construction movement. And nowadays, there are a number of techniques we can use for planning, for working in small batches, coordinating the site assembly and the manufacturing plants, using some 4D modeling techniques to help in the planning process. So this is, there are many companies that are investing on that. Not many, but several modular construction companies are changing their managerial system so it's more suitable for modular construction. These are some techniques that we used, which is related to location-based control. So we divide the site into zones. We establish flows. Those flows are controlled by the rhythm, or we call that takt-time control, to see if the rhythm is followed. We also control cycle time, adherence to batches. There are a number of location-based control techniques that are also very useful for modular construction. One key idea in modular construction, you cannot have a lot of work in progress. You don't have space to store modules. They are heavy, they are difficult to move. So you need to minimize that. So this is quite important. And of course, for managing this integrated management of manufacturing plants, site assembly, you can use different technologies, different types of digital technologies that allow you to keep construction sites connected to the manufacturing plant, so the production of modules, the delivery of modules to the construction site can be adjusted depending on the on how site assembly evolves. Right, some final comments. I'd like to emphasize that there are major changes happening in the construction industry. There is a different type of industrialization, which is not based as it used to be in the past on standardization, off-site production, and mechanization. It involves several other things. It involves, for instance, the use of digital technologies, the integration of supply chains, the new business models. So it's a different type of industrialization that is happening. One important thing is not to repeat mistakes that the construction industry has done in the past, focusing on technological solutions without improving managerial models. You need to manage projects in a different way. The lean production philosophy, the use of digital technologies play key roles in the management of modular construction. And another key challenge is to understand the diversity in client demands. So you need to consider different client requirements in order to really have a success in specific market segment. This is applicable to the residential building market, but also to other types of building, schools, prisons, and so on. So these are some of the ideas that are strongly related to the customers. Customize products, reduce lead times, offer a combination of products and services. So there is a wide range of changes happening in the construction industry. Okay, so this is my presentation. Thank you very much again for the invitation. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Hello, Carlos. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing this very insightful presentation here with us. Apologies, I wasn't here right at the beginning. We have an open day today. I've been running around a bit. So yeah, that's why I couldn't introduce you. So thank you so much. It's been a great presentation. So we normally ask for questions from the floor. So I don't know if anyone that's around would like to ask any questions to Carlos. Mohan, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Carlos, for this insightful presentations. And I just would like to add, because I had worked before in the modular system, and the benefits that's the huge benefits we got it from the modular system. I remember when we had the COVID-19, where the government, they decide to make a temporary hospitals for the COVID-19. And in that case, I remember there was a call to going for a modular system, which was reducing the huge time of the construction of this temporary hospitals. The another things I observed when I worked on that things, sometimes you need like a lot of preparations after the system is arrived to the site, which is, for example, modular toilet. Once it's arrived to the site, you're gonna have a lot of preparations with a subcontractor regarding plumbing and electrical and so on. Which is, if it's considered from the beginning, that will be perfect for the installation process.
Okay, yeah, interesting, Mohan, that you mentioned temporary buildings, because this is becoming a very important market for modular construction. In Brazil, we had recently, unfortunately, floods, landslides, especially in the south of Brazil, southwest, and there are some initiatives of building houses very quickly to help the population that was affected by those problems. And there is always this dilemma: building temporary buildings or building buildings that are going to stay for a long time. And perhaps combining this idea of modular construction and mass customization, we could have both. We could have some temporary buildings that are quickly built, quickly delivered, and later on they could be extended, improved. And this would be a really nice application of of modular construction and also mass customization. I think it would be really interesting. There is a huge discussion about that in Brazil. Another interesting market for modular construction, I've been recently to Japan, and what's happening in Japan, they have these very efficient companies, very developed modular construction companies. They have 15% of the housing market in Japan. But what's happening in Japan, the demand for housing is decreasing, right? Because there are many houses that have already been built and the population doesn't grow anymore. So what they're doing now, they are opening a market for recycling houses. So they buy houses back from their customers. They recycle, they reuse some components and deliver those houses for the same customer or even for other customers, right? So this is something really, really interesting, and it has to do a lot with sustainability. In both cases, I think it's an interesting application of modular construction related to sustainable built environment.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, Tamiris?
Thank you, Mr. Formoso, for all the presentation. It was really good.
Tamiris, can you try and speak a little bit closer to the microphone? Yeah, sorry.
Can you hear me better?
A bit better, yeah.
Thank you. I have some problem with my microphone. At the very beginning, you were talking a little bit about the difference between companies when it comes to mechanization and digitalization, automation. And I've been following some companies here in the UK. And some of the biggest ones with a lot of mechanization, a lot of automation, and some of them were actually using mass customization, they went bankrupt. And I tried to talk to these people actually to understand what happened. And one of the companies told me that they had a very good production line. They were producing a lot of models. And they didn't have people to buy all those models. And then what they started doing was that they were buying the land themselves. They were installing, they had all the process. So they were buying the land, they were producing the models, installing the models. But again, they were spending a lot of money and not having all those houses being sold at the time they needed to get the investment back. So I would like to see a little bit of, if possible, of your opinion around that, on demand and how those companies that have huge investment could still survive.
Very good question, Tamiris. What we've seen in modular construction, it's growing a lot, but the number of companies that go bankrupted is relatively high, right? I can see some problems. Well, the first problem is that some companies, they want to sell modules. They don't want to sell projects, right? So they need to find another company that delivers the project, right? And in a way, this makes companies more vulnerable because the company that understands the market is the project delivery company, not the module delivery company, right? So some successful companies I know in Brazil for modular construction, they are very good at capturing customer requirements. They use digital technologies to communicate with the customer, and I would say they're not very sophisticated in terms of producing modules, right? And maybe one of the problems, I don't know that company you mentioned, but perhaps they decided to deliver projects, but perhaps they haven't invested enough on capturing requirement and understanding the market, right? And not only understanding the market, but what we see in some Japanese companies, they educate the customer. They bring the customer to these places that are prepared for customers to visit some example of modular houses. They test the technology. They see the advantages of modular construction, right? So this is something really important. Another key point for making modular construction more competitive is lead time. You need to deliver very quickly, right? So the Japanese, if somebody buys a house without many customized subsystems, 3 months. So that's a very short delivery time. This from the point of view of the customer is a huge advantage. So the best scenario is I'm going to buy a house which is going to deliver in 3 months, and I can sell back that house to the company, right? Because they might recycle my house and sell to somebody else. This is wonderful for a customer, right? Anyway, this is just a kind of vision. It doesn't happen very frequently, I suppose, but involving the customer is really, really important. Some Japanese companies, they say, we don't sell a house before we have 5 meetings with the customer. We don't want to sell the house before 5 meetings, because if the customer have 5 meetings, they will make a good choice. He or she is going to make a good choice.
So the companies sell to the final client, not to some developer. I think maybe that's the point in the UK companies. I couldn't talk to any. I talked to around 20 companies, and none of them would sell to the final client. They sell to a developer. So maybe that's the breed that needs.
Well, of course, in some specific markets, for instance, one of the Brazilian companies we are working with, they sell to the government, schools, prisons, hospitals. It's a different market, right? They sell to government, local government or federal government, but still they need to know the requirements of those clients, right? It doesn't need to be the final client, but they need to know the requirement. In the housing market, I very much believe that the company becomes vulnerable, because something very important is mass customization. You're not going to sell a standard product. You're not going to sell a standard house to many people, right? So you need to know which changes people would like to have. Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for that. We've run out of time, but I'll just ask one quick question. I mean, is the issue of sustainability and reuse of materials something that the companies are actually looking at in Brazil? Because this is quite an important issue here in the UK with the net zero targets and so on. So are companies looking at different materials reuse?
Yeah, they are. I would say that to a less extent than compared to in other countries. Japan is really advanced. They recycle every single residue that is produced both in the manufacturing plant and when they recycle houses, they also recycle the residues of the previous house. It's incredible. But there are some companies that are doing that, and I think there are a very interesting opportunity when you talk about sustainability. Sustainability has three main dimensions: environmental, social, and economic. And I think some of these companies can have a good performance in terms of social sustainability. The working conditions are much better if you compare to traditional construction technologies. Some of these companies, they might involve some local business, small subcontractors, designers, small construction companies that can do part of project delivery. And this I would say, plays an important role in terms of making this segment sustainable. Of course, sustainable environmental sustainability is nowadays is the priority in the planet.
Yeah.
But social sustainability and economic sustainability very much support, make it feasible to have environmental sustainability.
Absolutely. Okay. So thank you so much again, Carlos, for this.
Okay.
I mean, there's going to be a recording of the session, which is going to be placed on our IDL webpage. We'll send you the link afterwards and send all the students the link as well. So those students that couldn't join us today can take advantage of this wonderful talk you've given again. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much and have a nice day.
Have a nice rest of your day.